I work in one of the largest denim manufacturer in the world. The company that I'm working for more than 3 decades, 30 years this year, is Vicunha Textile. I was invited to talk a little bit about sustainability with you, and I at this point, I'm not going to talk about Vicunha products. I'm not going to talk about our social initiative, and I'm not going to talk about our internal practice that we have a lot. But we start with our definition that what sustainability is for us, and I can resume it in 2 sentences. First one is simply doing and wishing good for people, for the world, and for the company that we work in. And the second sentence is that sustainability is not a single fact, but it is a story to be told. So we develop this frame that we use to explain to our customer, to explain to our internal people, to explain to everybody what we are doing in terms of sustainability. So we use this framework. First of all, we needed to be meaningful in this kind of discussion, in the kind of issue. We need to be, we need to cover the total, the chain, from the raw material for the final consumer. So we understand that we have a lot of things to offer in terms of information, in terms of things that we're doing that can motivate and can also help people to have the right communication about sustainability. Because in the end of the day, who is changing the mind and behavior is the consumer. And in the past, consumer put a lot of pressure in the retail put a lot of pressure in the cotton sew chain, and of course they put the pressure on us, and of course we put pressure on raw materials. So one thing that we defined that we, Vicunha, as a fabric supplier, we needed to cover all the elements in the chain. The second important thing is about the certifications and seals. This is something that we cannot avoid. And all the things are working on behalf of the customer. So if you ask me, what is the most important certification? I will tell you that all of them. So all of them, for some reason, there's a meaningful reason to exist. So all of this certification we are running in the company right now. So from the raw material, from the chemicals, from the cotton, I put a lot of certification cotton, the cotton, all the ISO certification that we have from 9,000 for 14,000. So we created also our own seals to talk about recycled material or waterless process. So we understand that the certification and seal is something that must be in the frame. So we put them. In the past, the certificate and seals was created to manage these compliance issues. But we understand also that today, the certificate and seal more and more, they cover the cause to be defended by the consumer. One example is organic. Organic thing is not a compliance. It's not a legal thing, but it's a desire of the consumer to have a more, let's say, conscious way to buy things. So we understand that this is a must in our business.
Okay.
And also this must be connected in the way that we are, in the way of being. So our company, from long time ago, we talk about to align people, align our employees, their values with the value of the company, with the value of the chain, with the new values that the consumer are the desperate desire. So when we talk about alignment, we talk about people, in personal, company, in the consumer values, behavior, service, and product must be aligned. But how are we going to tell the history? So we are building up some, let's say, pillars to talk, columns to talk. So we have one very strong subject to talk is about people, what we are doing with our people, what we're doing about our resources, raw materials, so time, so everything, energy, water. Other thing is what important world, what we're doing to impact somehow the world. So we are following the, let's say, the Sustainable Development Goals, and now we want to sign with them really the commitment in the company, in the thing that we're doing in the Sustainable Development Goals. That is something that we have people inside already thinking about and developing. So other thing that it must is very important is the way that you manage things. So we have a very strong lean culture in the company. So we want to spread out this concept in the chain to help them to be more practical, more, let's say, efficient, that this can be also a very strong point for the sustainability when you get more efficient in your things, in the way that you're doing things. The culture is something important. Regionalization is important. To be proud to be made in Brazil, or made in Ecuador, and made in Argentina, or made in Pakistan, but we needed to understand the difference, and the people needed to realize that the labor requirement, the laws are different from place to place, but the consumer needed to understand what it means to be different, what it means to produce in Brazil or to produce it in any part of the world. So we need also to protect our culture. Brazil has a culture, the way to people use the garments is different from the people that are in India, in China. And one thing that is very clear, that fast fashion concept, they put everybody in the same place. Sometimes we made a lot of question about that. And the last thing that we talk inside the company is innovation. What we are doing in order to bring innovation in the process, innovation in the way to do things. So we want also to share things, new things. So technology can help to do a lot of things. So just to give you an example, when we talk about what things are we doing in the sustainability, I want to mention the water, because water is something that's very precious, and everybody is really, really concerned about the water in the world, what's happening with the water. So we invest a lot of money 2 years ago to introduce a methodology that already exists in academic world, to bring this methodology in a practical things and use it to help us to orientate our project inside the company. So I'm going to be very quickly on this. I needed to explain to you also why water for us, it's very important, because first of all, water for us is element of big cost for Vicunha. Vicunha is located in a state that we don't have water enough. So it's almost semi-desert, the region that our plants are located. And we don't have rivers. We don't have water underground, in the underground. So we need to pay water, and the water is not a good quality, but the government give us, sell us water. And the water that I've used cost me almost $1 per cubic meter. It's a lot of money. In other place, because water doesn't have value, people use it in a very bad way. So I don't have a river to take my water. I don't have water underground. So I need to pay for the government, to the government, I need to pay almost $1 per cubic meter. And the other problem is the wasted water. Who's going to treat? We don't have a river. So the cost of treatment that government also give us cost almost $5 per cubic meter. So one thing that you need to understand from Vicunha, that water is a huge cost element. And of course, during the history of our company, what are we doing all the time is try to reduce water consumption. If you ask me, what's the water consumption in 1 meter of Vicunha fabric, I tell you, it's less than 10 liters.
What do you think it is in the industry in general?
I really don't know, because I don't know how they control the consumption.
I see.
Because if you take from the river, for instance, people use the water to wash things that don't need to be washed,
right.
Or they don't have this concern. So the flow of water, I visited many factories that you see water everywhere. If you're going to see my factories, I'm going to invite you. You're going to see it look like a dry company, no water. So this is something that we really concerned is water. And now we perceive and we realize that the practice that we do in water is very, very helpful and useful for this sustainable talk. So, and this is first thing that I want to mention. The second thing is the European market. We, as South American company, we was one of the pioneers to explore the European market. And almost 30 years ago, we went there to understand, and we realized that we could be in that place. But of course, the European market is more mature and conscious about many things. And this demanding also help us to bring the first certification in the company. Nobody talk about a green label maybe 20 years ago, but the European market already was talking about it. And we were the first company in Latin America to have the Ecotex label for textile, for denim, to be in the European market. So when we start to be more international and we start to see the competitors, and I personally visited many, maybe hundreds of denim factories in the world, we could see a lot of things, different things. I'll give you an example. In Brazil, the labor number of hours per week is 40 hours. I went to countries that people work 12 hours per day during 7 days a week. and having 20 days of vacation in a certain period of time. In Brazil, this is a kind of slavery. And of course, certification, don't see this, let's say, moral things. Certification just tell you that if you are compliant, let's say, if you are following the local rules, that's the certification sometimes tell you. And sometimes it's very important to understand the difference. So it's very difficult to compete in this kind of world, in a world with a lot of difference. And the retail and the final consumer don't see this kind of difference. But of course, Brazil has a lot of labor and environment tough laws. So, but we need to survive. And now, today, the sustainability speech help us to be, let's say, meaningful to this new world. But the big challenge is how to communicate, how to express, how to give the right message for everybody to understand. This is the challenge, not only for Vicunha, but the retail, the brands. For the future, we need to change our mindset when we talk about water. This is the first message. We need to have another ways to calculate the impact in consumption. And this is very important for the whole chain, because I heard a lot of numbers, I heard a lot of things, but in the end of the day, people are not talking about impact. People are talking about only consumption, okay? This is the first thing. BCI, in the end of the day, is not transparent, because you don't know where your fabric, your pants, your trouser, the cotton are coming from. When you use a certificate, you can trace bale by bale, and you can trace the percentage of the cotton with this characteristic. Okay, we can talk about. We can be, let's say, we can put a challenge to more and more increase the amount of the responsible cotton in your production. But BCI only is not the solution. Of course, we needed to do a lot of things in terms of water, renewable energy, less energy consumption, reuse of water, cotton, and chemical. We need to talk about everything at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcel.